Hello and welcome to the Johnny Gets Cash YouTube channel where I buy, fix and sell cars for profit. This is the final part in my cheaper than scrap Ford Focus series where I've been working hard to save a once forgotten Ford Focus that was destined for the scrapyard. So far in this series you've seen me sort out the Focus's various issues, including some rust, some body damage and years worth of dirt and neglect. Last time I discovered that the Focus had a cracked rear spring, causing it to fail its MOT. Today I collect the Focus from its retest and get ready to offer it for sale. Right then, I have just picked up the Focus from MOT and I am pleased to say that on retest it has now passed. So if you remember before, it fell on a cracked rear coil spring. That's now been changed. The advisories were some light corrosion to the trailing arms and some light corrosion to the other spring. Now the other spring looks absolutely fine to me. In fact, it's virtually new, so I'm really not sure what that advisory is about. However, rather than get into an argument with the tester about it, I just said, fine. I looked underneath thinking if it is corroded, I'll change it, but because it's not, I haven't. Anyway, the one that was broken has now been changed. So the car has got an MOT, and I'm very, very pleased because that means I can now move on to the next stage of the process, the final stage, which is getting this old Focus sold. Now, when I first bought this, I did say to you on a test drive similar to this, I'm going to take you through every stage. I'm going to show you everything I do to the car, what ends up happening to it at each stage and how I go about it. And I think so far we've been through everything, apart from this, the final stage. Now, of course, I haven't even advertised this car yet, let alone sold it, because I've been doing a lot of research about what sort of price I should advertise the car for. Now, on initial inspection, you'd say, okay, it's a 20-year-old Focus. If you just go on that criteria, there's a lot of very, very cheap examples out there. Oftentimes they won't have an MOT or they'll be in a really, really poor state of repair. So what we need to keep in mind here is yes, it's an old Focus, it's a 2003, but it is a Ghia spec car, so it's got everything on it and everything works, more importantly, including the air conditioning, which on days like today is absolutely vital. So being that this is a Ghia spec Focus and it is, I believe, in absolutely remarkable condition after all the work that's been put into it, I need to decide what it's going to be worth. So what do we have? We have a 2003 Focus Ghia with 88,000 miles on it with a fresh 12 months MOT, looking absolutely beautiful. It's had the paintwork done, it's had all the exterior detail, the interior detail. I've changed parts of the interior that were damaged, i.e. those burnt seats. The car wants for nothing. Now, the only slight downside I can say about this car is that, as mentioned initially when I first bought it, it didn't come to me with a lot of service history. My resolution to that was to have a really, really thorough service done, which has been billed, and of course I have the paperwork to verify. So the car has had everything it needs, but I just don't have a trail of its lifetime, all the work it's had done in previous years. Now, you could argue that doesn't really matter because it's been and gone, hasn't it? It's not that relevant. The service work I've had done would overwrite that anyway. But nonetheless, I'll admit a car with absolutely full service history will be worth slightly more than this one. With that being said, I have had a look through various online portals at what similar cars are making, and I have been very surprised actually. There's a couple of examples with slightly less miles, but Ghia spec cars, funnily enough, in similar colours, one of which is on bids, and when I last looked at the bids it was well over £4,000 with a few days left to run. So I think that car, I think that has about 27,000 miles in it, so quite a few less miles, but I think that car's going to go well north of £5,000. So here's where I am with it. I think I'm going to advertise this particular Focus for £2,500, and I'll tell you why. If you're looking to get into the classic Ford market, it's no secret that you need quite a bit of cash these days. So what do you do if you want to get into a modern classic Ford without spending an absolute fortune? Well, you go for something slightly newer than you'd originally thought. And in this case, a Mark 1 Focus does the job perfectly. I believe at £2,500, this Ford Focus offers fantastic value for money. Now, if you wanted to buy it as a modern classic, it's something you want to keep in the shed, in the garage, until values go up, I think at £2,500, that gives the next buyer room to move with it. You know, £2,500, it's going to get worth more than that, surely. However, if you wanted to use it as a daily vehicle, it's a very, very usable car. It's modern enough that it has everything you'd need, but also it's ULEZ compliant, being it's a little bit older. So these days, that's kind of important. So the reason I've said £2,500, There's some at a lot more than that, and there's some really rough ones at a lot less. Now I believe this is a good one, and I think I'm trying to pitch it as one of the cheaper good ones. So £2,500 is where I'm going to go with it. So while I'm on this final drive of the Ford Focus after picking it up for MOT, let's go through what I've done to the car. Well, when it came to me, it looked like a bit of a basket case. I really thought it might be a bridge too far. Certainly when I picked it up, I wasn't too sure about it. I quickly learned that it was a bit of a diamond in the rough. You've seen me do that paint work that was needed because there was damage on the car that just had been left. I suppose it's been through that age where people thought, oh, it's an old car, I'll damage it, I don't care, won't bother. The damage to the interior, which I initially, as you know, I wasn't going to change, but the car came up so well, and supported by the comments of you guys, I thought, right, okay, the interior does justify being changed. And that's what I did. So everything that needed to be changed or fixed has been done. There was a little bit of welding in the rear. It's an old Ford, it was always going to need a small amount of welding. Could have been a lot worse though, so I was very, very happy with that. The underside, incredibly straight. It wasn't all rusty, it hadn't been jacked up in the wrong places. So it had the makings of a really, really nice example. And I quickly learnt that. So I threw probably more time at this than I initially thought I would, but I'm very, very glad that I did, because I think now, if you're looking for a very, very nice example of a Mark 1 Focus, you're going to be hard pushed to find one. So that means I'm going into a marketplace that once upon a time, selling a Focus like this would have been very, very busy. But these days, unless you're looking for a Focus RS or an ST version, there isn't really that many Mark 1s left. I'm talking about normal spec, Ghias, LXs, things like that. Nothing against RSs, of course, I think they're fantastic cars, but you expect them to have had a cosseted life, don't you? Cars like this, they've been overlooked for so long, lots of them have gone to the scrapper, they're getting thinner on the ground, and good ones are starting to fetch a lot of money. So the more I worked on this car, the more I started to fall in love with it. And a few of you guys have commented that I should probably keep this for myself because values are on the up. There's various things you can do with it. Someone even mentioned there's a bit of a market for having cars like this and renting them out to film studios and TV studios, because if you're filming something that's set in, say, the early 2000s, you need period cars, right? And there's not many left. So clean ones that look like they could be new for the filming are in demand. Now, that's something I know absolutely nothing about, so it's probably not something I'm going to explore much further, but it's a very, very interesting point. I love every car I work on, you know that. I really, really love Fords, and I really, really, really love this Ford. I would love to keep it, but I can't keep every single car I work on. That would go against the business model entirely. So I am going to have to sell it. Now, that doesn't break my heart too bad, because I do truly believe this is going to go to someone who's going to appreciate what it is, what it can be, and what they can do with it. More so, I'm pitching the price not ridiculously over the top, so I believe whoever buys it is not going to have to wait all that long before prices float even higher and they could make money simply by selling it on and doing nothing to it. Or more likely, they're going to have a lovely, lovely, usable modern classic, and they're going to have many, many years on the road with it, which is what I'd really like to happen. So as we've been blessed with some really, really lovely weather these last few days in the UK, what I'm going to do, now that the car is back and I can confirm it's got that MOT on it, I'm going to take some nice pictures of it today. I am going to get it listed online. However, I have had so many comments from you guys asking, when will it be for sale? How much will it be? Every time I've said, keep watching the YouTube channel, you'll know as soon as it's about to be sold, and you guys will see it first. And I stand by that. So before I actually advertise this to the wider public, what I'll say is, if you're watching this video and you've been watching the series so far, and you, like me, have fallen in love with this Mark 1, and you'd like the chance to own it, you can get to it before everyone else. What I'd like you to do, if you're interested in buying this car for £2,500, is contact me through Instagram. I'll put my Instagram handle on the screen here. If you want to get in touch with me with regards to buying this car, send me a message on Instagram and we'll go from there. If, of course, this car doesn't sell to one of my viewers, it's not a problem. I'll advertise it in the traditional way. I'll advertise it online, giving a full description and pictures, so anyone who hasn't seen these videos will get an idea of what's been done to the car. Either way, whoever ends up owning this car, I'm sure they will be absolutely pleased as punch with it. It is such a nice example. Now, I know you'd expect me to say that because I've done the work on it, it's my stock, I'm selling it. Well, if it was anything less than that, believe me, I would tell you, I would give you the warts and all version, but this is a really genuinely lovely example. On a day like this, I'm driving around in a 20-year-old car and the aircon works. It's little things like that that I love so much about certain cars. This is a car that's easy to overlook, but if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll see what a fantastic vehicle it is. It's just great. So to summarise, we started out with a cheaper than scrap Ford Focus. Now I'll admit I have put a lot of time into this project, and of course I do charge my time. When I do a project like this, I have to work out what my hours are worth, otherwise I'm not going to make money. Now, without putting too fine a point on it, I know roughly what this thing owes me. I'm not going to chase after a huge profit, because I think with a vehicle like this, it could go either way. It could fly out the door, or I could sit on it for a while. So there's no point being too greedy with the price. And I think at the price point I've chosen, someone will come along relatively quickly, because it does represent a very good buy for someone who knows what they're after, especially if they're after a particularly clean and genuine Mark 1. So you've seen me do a little bit of everything on this car. I said I'd bring you along for the whole process, and that's what I like to think I've done. I've shown you the initial cleanup, I've shown you a bit of welding, I've shown you a bit of detailing, a bit of paint work, a little bit of interior work. I've tried to do as much as I possibly can to show you the whole process. Now, if you've enjoyed watching this, I know this is the last Focus episode you're likely to see, but there is going to be more very soon. But if you've enjoyed it, don't despair, because there's lots more coming very soon. Not on this car, but on a very similar car. Not a Mark 1 Focus, I hasten to add, but something similar. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe now, and you won't miss out when that video goes live. So as always, I want to say a massive thank you to you guys who are watching, especially those of you who've watched the whole series. It's a little bit different than the sort of thing I'd normally do, where I'm showing you a restoration or a several part job. I've showed you the whole process on what is a very cheap car, let's be honest. Anyway, I've really enjoyed having you guys along and interacting with you guys in the comments. As you know, I try to respond to everyone, so apologies if I haven't ever responded to you, but I do try and get back to everyone. Thank you so much for watching. It has been so much more fun having you guys along for the ride, and as I say, there is another one coming very soon. So that's it, that's the end of the Focus series. As I've said, it's made all the difference having you guys watching, and there will be another one out very soon, similar to this, and you can follow along. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.